Hi, Com 111, Section 16, my online section. I wanted to take some time today and record the Chapter 12 lecture for you all, organizing and outlining your speech, because while your textbook does a good job about explaining this, for the outline section that you guys will have an assignment on, I want to go over that a little bit more in detail and thought it would be helpful if I could kind of talk through that with you all. But first, let's talk about organizing the different parts of your speech. So for my class, I use what I call the speech sandwich. So use that metaphor as a cheeseburger, a hamburger, ham sandwich, turkey sandwich, whatever your favorite type of sandwich is, to try to remember the different parts you're going to use within your speech. So our top bun, you have your introduction. You're going to draw the audience in this section. This is also where you will first state your attention getters. So something that is going to draw the audience's attention right away so that they are more likely to listen to the rest of your speech. And then we have our body within our speech. So main ideas and supporting material. That's going to consist of the hamburger patty for your main idea, your topic, things like that. And then the supporting material are those things like your pickles, your cheese, and your lettuce, because you will always need supporting material to show that your main idea is true. The body of your speech is important. It takes up the largest content of your speech, so you want to make sure you continue to engage with your audience during this. And then we have our signposts. They're also better known as transitions, but it's what holds our feelings together, our main ideas and our supporting material. So think about that as your favorite condiments, ketchup, mustard, mayonnaise. It's signposts or organizational transitions within the speech. And then lastly, our bottom bun, call to action and your conclusion, where we wrap up the speech, but also leave our audience with something else to think about and maybe something that we're going to call them to action to do now that they've listened to our speech and our topic. So now let's break down those sections in a little bit more detail. You guys are going to find that this is similar to maybe how you would organize an essay if you all are familiar with your English classes. Organizing your speech is very similar. There are just a few additional elements, but this is a very important aspect of preparing for your presentations. So what do we see in the introduction and attention getter section of our speech? Like I said previously, this is where you're going to want to get the audience's attention. You start your speech with an attention getter. And maybe you all remember some effective attention getters, but you can use things like quotes, alarming statistics, stories, jokes, humor. Whatever you use, though, you want to make sure it still is effective and relates to your topic. After your attention getter, you're going to introduce your topic. Don't forget to introduce your topic within the introduction, or else your audience will be left with wondering things like, what are we going to talk about today? What's the topic on? So just go ahead and say, today I'm going to be talking about organizing and outlining your speech, for example. Give the audience a reason to listen. Why is this important to them? How will this topic affect them? Establish your credibility. So this refers to telling your audience why you're credible to speak on this subject. So whether that's certain experience you have or if it's just from the research that you've done within this topic, you need to tell them why you're credible to speak on this topic. And then lastly, you're going to state your central idea and preview your main ideas, which we'll talk a little bit more about later on how to establish those as well. Let's talk about main ideas. So obviously your main ideas are going to be those 2 or 3 or even more, depending on your topic, main points that you want to talk about. Now, your textbook talks a little bit about how you can organize these within a speech. I've included them on some charts on this PowerPoint. You guys can read into that within Chapter 12 on your textbook, but these are just some ideas that you can use to organize your speech. Maybe one works better chronologically, especially, for example, if you're going to inform us maybe how to string a guitar, then you're probably going to want to organize that speech based on first step, second step, third step, etc. You wouldn't want to necessarily start with the fourth step and then go to the first step and then go to the fifth step. That'd be very confusing for your audience. So take a look at these different strategies on how you can organize and come up with main points, and then let me know if you guys have any questions. So underneath your main ideas, you're also going to have your supporting material. So this is where you might do some research, find some evidence, maybe look up some statistics in order to support what you're trying to inform us of within your main ideas. Once again, there's a few different strategies that you can organize this with. Your textbook does a great job explaining this. But your main ideas and your supporting material, you need to make sure that they're organized in a way that your audience can follow along easily. So let's talk about signposts. That's what we call them in speech class, better known as a transition, for example, if you've taken an English class. So it's a verbal or nonverbal organizational signal. You want to make sure that you use these transitions so that we can easily follow along with what you're saying and where you're going with that point. A preview is a statement of what to come. Tell them what you're going to tell them. So we do that in the introduction when we tell them our topic, and then we tell them, so today we're going to talk about these 3 main points and list them. You want to use those transitions in between main points when you're moving from one idea to the next. Say, first I'm going to talk about this. Say, now second we're going to talk about this. That's a very simple sentence to say. A lot of times we forget to use these, but it can really make a difference in our organization. And then try to summarize throughout your speech. Oh, I apologize, I skipped forward. You're obviously going to summarize when you create your conclusion, but there is something that we call internal summaries. So when you recap within the speech of what has been said so far. So maybe you describe to us a very complex topic on that first main point. Maybe it's a complexing definition. So take a second, summarize what you just said in a very simple, concrete way that can help you and your audience understand that content a little bit more. But don't forget your transitions is my main point within this slide. They are very easy to do and they will really help organize your speech. Okay, so the last part of our speech is our conclusion. So you guys are probably pretty familiar with what we want to see in conclusion. So of course you want to summarize the speech, restate your main points again, but in a very simple way. You also want to re-emphasize that central idea in a memorable way, which is similar to a thesis statement. If you guys look on chapter 11, when we talked about the differences between, central idea and, your general idea and things like that. You also want to do a few more things within a conclusion within a speech. You want to motivate the audience to respond, and that doesn't necessarily mean a physical response. What I mean by that is maybe you tell the audience, now that I've taught you how to change the strings on your guitar, I hope that you take the time to, if you do own a guitar, change the strings on your own versus taking it to a shop. You see how that motivates the audience to respond in a way that's not physical, but maybe mentally? So now that they have this information, it can affect their future and maybe save them money if they're able to change the strings on their own versus taking it to a shop. And your speech has helped the audience do that. And then the last thing you're going to leave us with is the wow statement, or you're also going to provide us closure. So I call it the wow statement. You won't find that in your textbook. But what I mean when I talk about the wow statement is to leave us with a final, very memorable thought. So if we are going along with the topic of how to change a guitar string, maybe as that final statement to give us something else to think about that's a little bit more hard-hitting versus just saying, and that's all. You give us a statistic on the average price of how much a shop charges to change the strings on a guitar, times that by however many times you think the average guitar player needs to take that and change the strings. Add that up and tell your audience, because you now have this information, you on average can save X amount of dollars within a year. Do you see how that's a little bit more impactful than just saying, well, I hope you enjoyed my speech, that's it. It leaves us with something to think about, that final wow. Okay, so now we're going to move into outlining. You guys are going to have an outline to complete during this unit, so I want to break that down because it can be overwhelming on an online platform. So within public speaking, outlines are important. We haven't had you submit any other outlines for other assignments just yet because they haven't been as formal, but with formal speeches like the informative and the persuasive, you need to use an outline. It gives you a chance to lay out your ideas, which will in turn prepare you for delivery so that hopefully you all aren't reading directly from your outline as much, because we want that extemporaneous speech versus that manuscript speech where you do read from an outline. So you're going to see a basic format, and I will have this uploaded in Canvas, a blank format for you. You all may have to do some copy and pasting depending on how many main points you have, etc. But here's the main points of the basic format. Your Roman numerals within the outline are your main points. So A and B aren't your main points, but the Roman numerals. And let me jump down and show you an example. So you see this Roman numeral right here? Your first main point is recycling aluminum cans prevents waste. Let's also take a look at our central idea. So for the example of this outline, this is our central idea. Recycling aluminum cans is important because it helps prevent waste. It keeps our environment cleaner, and it shows we care about our planet's future. So you see the two parts in the central idea that your textbook talks about. Here's the topic. Recycling aluminum cans is important. And here's our three main points that we've listed out that we're going to discuss. Preventing waste, clean environment, planet's future. So this first one, it helps prevent waste. You see how that matches up with our first main point, Roman numeral 1, recycling aluminum cans prevents waste. So then underneath our first main point, you have these subpoints, which are listed as A, B, and C. So we're going to talk about how recycling prevents waste in general, how we aren't just throwing things in the trash, and how that also benefits us financially, how recycling aluminum cans can do this. So with our 1 and 2 and then our A and B, this is our supporting material to help go along with our subpoints and our main points. Do you see how a point to support how recycling makes sure we're not just throwing things in the trash? So then what happens is our garbage dumps are not so full and we don't have to use so much land for garbage dumps. So these two supporting material supports this subpoint, which supports this main point. So it's all connected, it's all very organized. Maybe you have a subpoint that doesn't have necessarily A and B for supporting material. That's fine, you can leave that out if it's a straightforward subpoint. For example, our main point, our second main point, recycling aluminum can keeps our environment cleaner. Subpoint A, we avoid having litter along the side of the road. That's a pretty straightforward subpoint. You don't necessarily need information to back that up, but if you wanted to, you could put 1 here and maybe give us a statistic on the amount of litter we clean up as a country per year or something like that, but you don't necessarily have to. So this is going to look a little bit different for each of you. You just want to check the format, make sure that your main points are listed as those Roman numerals. Make sure that you indent and use capital letters for supporting information under the main points, so make sure that format looks clean. And then let's go ahead and jump down here to explain this. You always need at least 2 in a level. So what it means is if we look at our main point 1 of this example, we have A subpoint. So we need at least 2 subpoints. So now we have A, B. Here we have 3, A, B, and C. But for example, 1 and 2, this is on the same level because it's indented, the same space. So we don't just have 1, we have 1 and 2. This helps organize, this helps support all your information. But what I say when I mean levels is that this Roman numeral 1 is on its own level, A, B, and C is on its own level, and then this 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2 is on its own level as well. It refers to where it's at in regards to indentation. So all points on the same level should have the same value. What that means is that you want to make sure that your outline is formatted correctly in the sense that you want to make sure all your main points, those Roman numerals, are indented at the same spot, because that will signify to us that those are the 3 main points, those are related, they have the same value. 3, 2, and 1 are all main points, and then you see where A, B, and C, A, B, C, A, B, C are on the same level. We know that those are all subpoints. We wouldn't want to have a main point right here where A is, because then that would confuse us and it would confuse our format. So you're going to have an outline to fill out. I'm going to upload an example from a textbook of what each part of that outline refers to, but also refer to this PowerPoint with any questions. Of course, ask me any questions, but I just wanted to take some time and verbally explain that to you all because I know it can be confusing.